In this lesson, we are going to learn about conditional control structures in Solidity. We are going to cover if, else if, and else. Let's start with a simple smart contract called control structures. And we are going to create a function that we are going to call compare numbers. What this function is going to do is essentially receive a number 1 and a number 2. It's going to be external, and we are going to return a string based on different conditions. The first condition is if number 1 is greater than number 2, then we're going to return a message. Let's say number 1 is greater than number 2. Okay? If number 1 is less than number 2, we say something similar, but in this case is less than number 2. And finally, if none of these conditions are true, it means that number 1 is equals to number 2. Okay? So let's start coding. We start with the first condition. We use the if keyword and we say if number 1 is greater than number 2, we simply say return, and we can just copy this message. Okay? Now we can an else if with the second condition, and we say if number 1 is less than number 2, we simply return this message. Okay? And finally, if this condition is false and also this condition is false, then it means that number 1 and number 2 are equal. So we simply return a message that says number 1 and number 2 are equal. Okay? Let's change this to be a pure function because we are not accessing the state at all. Okay, so this is a pure function. And let's test it. Let's deploy the contract, and now let's call compare numbers, and let's pass, let's say 1 and 2. We call it and we get that number 1 is less than number 2. Now let's call it with number 2 and 1 in the opposite, and now we can see the number 1 is greater than number 2. Okay? And then let's pass 2 and 2, so we would expect this part to be executed. And we get number 1 and number 2 are equals. Okay? While this example is very simple, I hope it gives you a better understanding of the possibilities to manage the control flow of your Solidity program by using if, else if, and else.